Our coffee breaks with researchers aim to spread knowledge about regional development and innovation. By sending a camera around the world, we present you with different angles and insights on the topic. We ask researchers directly and in a personal manner about their work. We want to make scientific knowledge accessible to all. Hi, welcome to Coffee Break with Researchers. Today, I'm having a coffee break with Margaret Cowell. She's an associate professor of urban affairs and planning at the School of Public and International Affairs in Virginia Tech in the United States. Hello, Margaret. Thank you for accepting my invitation to a coffee break. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Today, I'm having an Indonesian black coffee. Which one are you having?
I'm taking a break from conference, so I'm drinking conference coffee, which is good.
But I'm happy you share your coffee break with me. And you wrote a paper about regional resilience and economic development planning that caught my attention. Could you please tell me what the paper was about?
Sure. The paper was an exploration in sort of looking at historical plans to uncover information about what happened in Buffalo, New York, and Cleveland, Ohio, and then look at how the plans, affected the development trajectory in those two places, and then in seeking sort of an update through kind of more recent plans to get a sense of what happened in the interim and how that affected sort of the adaptive resilience of these two places.
I can see that the key concept of your research is regional resilience. Could you please define it for me?
All right, so regional resilience is a complex concept that a lot of people have spent a lot of time thinking about, especially from a variety of other disciplines. And I've come to a sort of definition that works for me is looking at it as adaptive resilience, and thinking that regions are capable of adaptation, and those who sort of thrive in the longer term are the ones who kind of continually develop and working towards increasing opportunities for the people who call them home.
And would you please provide me with the summary of the key results?
I think a couple of key findings. The first is that I think, it's important to acknowledge that regions take different paths in their quest towards adaptive resilience or whatever it is that they're striving for. And in these cases, these two cities took, fairly similar preconditions, but, took their own decisions and framed things a little bit differently, and ultimately sort of working towards similar goals, but taking different paths in which to get there. I think also another key finding is that looking back in history, so the late 1970s, early 1980s, when these earlier plans were written, that there was a sense of, I use the term irrational exuberance in the paper itself. And I think that's evident in both of these plans. There's a sort of denial about what was happening in terms of the loss of manufacturing jobs and the sort of deindustrialization trend in both of these places. And I think, ultimately, one of the key findings is that we need to do a better job of sort of, and I think they do in the subsequent plans, of kind of balancing aspiration and reality. And I think that's an important lesson for regions to think about, and it's a key finding of the paper.
Thank you very much for that. That's very good to know. And I also want to know, what was your main motivation in doing this paper?
Combination of things. I think methodologically I found both the kind of archival research, the nature of these historical plans, which are kind of a rarity, to be able to uncover kind of regional economic development plans from that time period is fairly rare, and hence the sort of two cases. And I think the archival piece was really interesting to me, matched with the oral history component, which I think is essential. I was able to capture the lived experiences of the stakeholders who were engaged in the decision-making process about how these two regions would respond to the loss of manufacturing jobs and the sort of deindustrialization trend. So capturing their stories before it's too late was an important kind of motivation for this piece and some of the other things I've been working on through the years. I think it's a really important part of learning about mistakes that we've made and kind of how how we can do better in the future. And then finally, I have a personal connection to Buffalo. I lived and worked there for some time, working on kind of questions of regional economies. So it makes perfect sense to sort of revisit that space and to think about how things played out in a place that I know very well. Cleveland came in as a great sort of comparison piece and is in close proximity to Buffalo, so it sort of naturally lends itself to being a focus of this paper as well.
And that's very nice to know. And could you please tell me, in your opinion, what is the main policy implication based on your research?
I think, in terms of policy development, I think before we decide on strategies about how to shape our regions going forward, I think it's really important. This paper reminds us that it's important to learn from history and to think about the intentions of previous plans and policies that we've developed, and think about whether or not they worked, and think about whether or not they kind of fit into a realistic depiction of what's possible. I think it's a great reminder that we're not always supposed to just be looking forward. We should also be thinking about, how things have been shaped by decisions we've made in the past as well. And I think that's a really key kind of reminder for people who are, grappling with policy decisions, is to think, what have we done? What have we done well? What have we sort of struggled with? And how can we improve upon that going forward? I think that's a key kind of research implication for regions and people grappling with these challenges. I think it's also, in order to do that work, in order to think about how best to proceed, it's really important to get a solid understanding of our strengths and weaknesses within a region before making those decisions. And I think it's essential that you have a realistic depiction of, what are the assets that we have, and what are the sort of, detriments that we're dealing with, and getting a very astute picture of that is essential to making the kinds of decisions that we ultimately hope will improve outcomes and increase adaptive resilience down the line.
Thank you once again, Margaret, for having this nice chat with me. It was a pleasure to have you here in a coffee break, and I hope to see you next time.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more details about this research, find here the link to the academic publication. Bye-bye.